welcome to World Insight with me, Tian Wei. As the world marks the 55th anniversary of the historic Apollo 11 moon landing, hopes are high on another giant leap in lunar exploration. Over the past 20 years, China has done a series of lunar explorations that include orbiting, landing, and returning samples from the moon. China has also plans to make a crewed lunar landing before the year 2030, build a basic station by the year 2035, and an extended station by 2045. Meanwhile, China is also keen on cooperating with others. So far, the country has signed agreements with over 10 countries and nearly 30 international research institutions on the moon research. So how does China's lunar exploration program help efforts in deep space exploration? And what is the potential of cooperation between China, the United States, and also many other players in the outer space? On these and more, I met Giuseppe Reibaldi, the Moon Village Association president, after an important event held by his organization in Harbin in cooperation with the Chinese side. Giuseppe, what a pleasure to see you here in Beijing.
Thank you so much for welcoming here. This is a beautiful opportunity to come here to China because of the International Moon Day.
Tell us more about how much enthusiasm you have discovered about the International Moon Day and also the Moon Village.
Right, so I think let's start first by saying that the International Moon Day was approved basically by the United Nations following a suggestion from the Moon Village Association. Because Moon Village Association is part of United Nations, and so we are a registered organization, observer.
Yeah.
And so we propose basically to the United Nations the creation of the International Moon Day. And the goal of the International Moon Day is indeed to outreach all the research which is made in the world, in different countries, and to let the people know what is going on. And I think there is a lot going on starting from China, with a lot of very exciting program with insight of humans being back on the moon around the turn of this decade.
Now, your organization is focusing so much on the exploration and future settlement of human beings on the moon. Where are we right now? Which stage?
Well, I think we are at a stage where both major stakeholders, which is basically United States and China, they are developing key technology to land humans on the moon. So China, of course, started later compared to the United States. The United States already have been to the moon. That's why also the International Moon Day is 20th of July. But of course, a lot of time has passed. And so the technology is now different. And so I have to say that China has made a remarkable, let's say, achievement in the last 10, 15 years with the Chang'e program, which of course is the god which she lives on the moon. So, and this is very much rooted in the Chinese culture. So where do we stand is that the two countries have developed, particularly more China, advanced robotic technology. The United States has never developed a probe which was able to retrieve samples because they send humans. And so they didn't need to do that. But now they are also trying to develop technology to send basically rocks back. So this has been mastered from China, including also the latest Chang'e 6 unique mission to the far side of the moon. And so I think in the robotic area, this is very much on the front line, China. On the human part, of course, China has developed the Chinese space station, which allowed to get experience on the human aspect of spaceflight. And the next step is humans on the moon. And so now the stage is set for China in the next few years to develop and demonstrate key technology of unmanned lunar landing, then with manned personnel on board. And so there is a three-stage step, as I heard also from the Chinese Manned Space Agency. We had the pleasure to visit last week. And so everything is getting ready for landing Chinese tachionauts, as I say, on the moon by 2030.
Right.
On the other side of the pond in the United States, they have a different approach for the time being. They are very much delegating a lot of activities to industry. And so in that respect, of course, it's positive because, of course, the cost is coming down when there is competition. But on the other hand, there is, of course, a kind of monopoly with SpaceX. And so I think right now the Artemis program has already demonstrated with an unmanned, let's say, launch last year, 1.5 years ago, how to go around the moon and come back and land in an automatic fashion without humans. So the next few years, they will be also to go towards landing on the moon. One of the issues that I can see from the technical point of view is that while China is trying to land, I would say, conventional, in inverted comma, moon lander, which has been to some extent demonstrated already, so, but is not extremely large. The United States with SpaceX is aiming to land basically a 50-floor building on the moon because it's 55 meters with 100-ton capacity. So this, of course, from the theoretical point of view, is a huge machine, but of course it will have a number of challenges. So I think the next few years there will be demonstration making sure that this is feasible.
When you are organizing all the stakeholders together for future exploration and human settlement, how would you make sure that everybody can bring their best together to make it a village?
But that is the reason why the organization has been created. So you are basically asking why the organization has been created, because the goal of the Moon Village Association is indeed to try to foster cooperation between all different stakeholders, being government, space agency, industry, non-governmental organization, as well as academia and the public. So the goal is that each of the stakeholders develop their own program. Of course, we cannot have at the moment a world program, so each country, rightfully so, has their own interest, but what is important that this interest must be on common grounds. And that's the reason why basically the concept of the Moon Village is so important, and I have to say that this is also deep-rooted in the cultural wisdom of your country, as you know.
You, earlier, before the interview, you were talking to me about the importance of cultural concepts behind all the efforts that we are making today. And you particularly subscribe to the traditional Chinese philosophy of 天下, namely everything that is under the sky, quote unquote.
Yes.
So how do you articulate, different cultural understandings and the reasons to explore the moon vis-a-vis the current approaches different teams are having right now?
Shanxia is, in your wisdom and your culture, basically important for ensuring there is no specific interest of government. It's something which is under the sky, which is basically in the interest of humanity. Well, that is the application to the moon, is the Moon Village. So the Moon Village is trying to bring together all what is in common, okay, fully respecting the difference and the different programs. So that's why I hope that after these, let's say, days spent in China, your country might become one of the major, let's say, leader in promoting the concept of the Moon Village, which is, by the way, extremely well known by many countries, but of course also the implication and the application of this concept is what is important.
I remember there was an old saying suggesting it takes a whole village to raise a child.
Right, right.
And one could see the importance of cohesion of that village.
Right.
And also the fact that when they are united, a future is possible.
Right.
So I want to ask you about this, because putting myself into your shoes, this is a challenging time, Giuseppe.
Yeah.
To you, on the technology and science front, what are some of the areas you particularly paying attention to?
Well, I think, as you said yourself, there is a geopolitical challenge, but it's also true that we are in a unique possibility, which is trying to bring common elements together. we have seen what has happened and what is happening on the International Space Station. As you know, is the only program which, in spite of the geopolitical situation, all the countries are still working together. So we aim with the Moon Village to make Moon a laboratory of peace. So this is a challenge for all the countries, but they all know that individually is not good by itself. I mean, it's good for national prestige, it's good for demonstrating their technology, but then in the long run, it's important the cooperation. And nothing more than space has demonstrated what can be achieved by cooperating.
Yeah.
So therefore, in a nutshell, the difference of technology as well will offer now the possibility to find common ground. And my area, which I'm pushing from the beginning, amongst many others, Moon Village Association, is dealing with different topics from technical to cultural to economical. It is the, let's say, international political landscape. So the international political sculpture is very important because, for instance, if you take the United States, they have published the Artemis Accord. Everybody keeps talking about the Artemis Accord, but when you see what is in the Artemis Accord, this is just common knowledge. There is nothing particularly either frightening or concerning. And so I think what we need to see is also to try to have the IRS principle published. Because I know by talking with the experts that they have a lot in common. And so I think once people understand what is on the other side, they can better be able to communicate.
So when you are talking about the commonalities, can you give us one or two examples?
Yes, but the commonality is that everybody of the different countries, as far as I know, recognize the United Nations Outer Space Treaty. Okay? That's the first point. And then when you look to the different principles, for instance, also in the Artemis Accord, there is a lot about how to behave vis-a-vis other parties, so inform the other party. And there is a lot of commonality, because at the end of the day, the technical challenges are huge. For
like
the
what?
human, like
Give us
basically staying alive. We talk about humans, staying alive, keep them alive, keep them food. And so accident can happen. That's number one. The second point is that there is a need for coordination and cooperation, because on the moon, the real estate, very important, is not huge. For the time being, from the knowledge that we know, the south pole of the moon is where everybody wants to go. And so if everyone goes on the same place, obviously this presents a challenge, especially if there is no organization which is making a kind of traffic control. You go first, you go second, as for the plane. So I think we do need to set up, as soon as possible, a body where the people are formally able to communicate. But the good news is that Moon Village Association has been pushing for making this aware to delegation, 100 delegations participating in the United Nations. And I think we presented a number of work. United Nations has approved, the last June, an action team on lunar consultation, ATLAC, which is indeed the first step in the direction of bringing all the stakeholders at the same table,
right,
in order to discuss in a very technical way, not political way, how to go about common issues like debris mitigation, landing in the similar position, information sharing, and so on.
As you know, Giuseppe, China went to the dark side of the moon and collected some samples back. And as far as I know, it is the knowledge coming out of it is being shared even with young people around the world. Yeah. And there are many other countries that are working with China in taking advantage of these samples collected to understand the moon better, particularly the dark side of the moon. How do you see steps like this would help us better with the facts finding future missions onto the moon?
Well, I think China is a world leader on the far side. It's the only country which has landed twice without any problem with 2 spacecraft on the far side. So it's by definition the leader, okay? So the possibility of basically increasing the cooperation is based exactly on what you said, that basically China has gone and is going to the moon not only for his own, let's say, national priority, but also for interest and the priority of humanity. And so that is the reason why it's important to promote this concept, which is already deep-rooted in your cultural heritage.
Yeah.
And so I think we have in front of us a very exciting time, which is to some extent more even exciting of the 60s, which I had the pleasure to participate with the Apollo missions.
So for your generation, many have witnessed,
Yes.
whether on TV screen or in documentaries, what happened during the 1950s and 60s. So what can we learn from those period of time to find out the best approach for something called the Moon Village?
Well, I think let's take the situation of the 50s and the 60s. So there the situation was in bipolar world, where basically the exploration of the moon was purely political tool. So I think the motivation of this Apollo program was purely rooted in political. That was a real race to the moon. And we know how it ended. How the people took this, as I said, you said I had the pleasure to be there, is the fact that it was extraordinary. In those times, I remember newspaper, first page, they were full with elements related to the moon. Okay, but right now, unfortunately, because the time is changed, this is not something which reach easily the headline.
Do you still remember the moment when you knew that humans were on the moon?
Well, I can tell you that, as I said, my interest has been rooted earlier in the beginning of the 60s. And so I was able to follow age 9 to 10 and further to follow the mission myself. In the sense I was really actually reading a lot of technical, a lot of documentation, but I also had the pleasure to write directly to JPL, even to the director of JPL, to ask for a picture of the moon.
Tell me more about that.
Well, I was a little kid, and of course struggled to write a letter. In my family, nobody spoke English, so I managed to try to write. I have a copy of this letter, but in any case, the director at that time, William Pickering of the JPL, understood what I was looking for, and he was so kind, he sent me a nice number of pictures from the unmanned probe which JPL was taking. And so since then, I've been following very closely all the stages. I was recording all the missions. I have hundreds of hours of recording from the television. And what is most important, the day of the Apollo landing, this was, of course, an incredible day for all of us, particularly for me, which I followed. Yeah. So what I can say that my family did not have a normal life during the Apollo mission because the television was taken away from the main dining room. Everything was concentrated in my room. And I managed also to record immediately after the end of the Apollo 11 mission what I was thinking at that point in time. And I was able to listen to this recording just a couple of years ago, and it's impressive because what I said in '69, at that time I was age 17, so you can work it out, the age, I said I hope that the lunar exploration is the start of a process of peace for humanity, for common cooperation. Obviously, the situation has not gone completely in that way. Moving forward to the present situation, now the space is not any longer, or at least not only a political struggle. We have many more reasons, and of course we have a democratization, basically, of the access to the moon.
Welcome back. This is World Insight. I'm Tian Wei. How can we measure the achievement of China's lunar exploration program so far? And what's the significance of China's other plans for deep space exploration and its continuing efforts to cooperate with the rest of the world? On these and more, I talked to Yuguang, the Vice Chair of the Space Transportation Committee of the International Astronautical Federation, as well as the President of the Moon Village Association. Both of you have been working very hard on the Moon Village idea. And I know Mr. Yang is an expert in China's aerospace and astronautics. So tell us more about, how does an expert like you from China articulate the idea of the moon village? And where is China in terms of science technology development to coordinate with others for a potential moon village?
Well, you see that I am the founding member of the Moon Village Association from China. From the China side, you know that China hopes to become a leading country in space field within several years. But now we are only a big country in space field. To achieve this goal, we reach a very, very important criteria: the international cooperation. So China thinks if we want to be a leading country or an advanced country in space field, the international cooperation is very, very necessary.
Yeah.
So we can see these kind of operations, for instance, during this Chang'e 6 mission, just accomplished several days before, we have the payloads from other countries. And also, since the beginning of our lunar exploration program and also our manned program, we get help from ESA and other countries. You see that although China's territory is very big, but still very small comparing to the total area of the Earth. So with the help of the ground stations from other countries, we can get a better coverage of the communications, either a manned spacecraft or lunar probes. So it's very important for China, either from the view of technology or from other aspects, to cooperate with other countries. Moreover, you see that the international cooperation can not only benefit the space-capable nations like China and Europe, but also can benefit the other countries, including the space-emerging countries and those who do not have a space industry. So
Right.
that's the goal of the China Aerospace.
Right. When you look at the important project of going to the moon, one would see every country is so well prepared in their plans. But on the other hand, there is a necessity for camaraderie. So how is China looking at, to make sure it is not going to be like a Cold War competition, but from the very bottom of the heart, it is about international cooperation?
Very good question. You see that, honestly speaking, many people from the space field of other countries name it as a competition or even another space race. But you can see that we don't think, at least from the China side, we don't think this is a race or a competition. We just develop our lunar exploration, including the robotic ones and the manned space program, based on our own needs to develop our own technology and to promote and benefit our daily life. So you can see that China announced its first human landing to the moon before 2030.
Yeah.
You can compare that during the Artemis program. Originally, they want to have the first moonwalk on maybe 2025 or 2026. So you can see that we don't want to be the first in this century. We don't have this plan. So that's the evidence, that's a very strong evidence that it's not a competition, at least for us.
Yeah.
But you know that as we've already discussed previously, the international cooperation is very, very important for us. So we welcome all countries, according to the formal announcement of the China National Space Administration and also from the China Manned Space Agency. They hope to invite all countries, no exception, to our programs and have more deeper cooperations.
Yeah. Giuseppe, you can see Yuguang, when he's talking about international cooperation, he's very intense. He wants to bring all he knows out. But having said that, though, I mean, did you guys have a great time in Harbin? I mean, especially having all the experts coming from different parts of the world, focusing on the future of the moon.
I think Harbin was an exceptional event. I already congratulate the Harbin Institute of Technology together with CSA, Chinese Space Association, that basically have organized a wonderful event. The event was by nature in person and online, and because of that we were able to have experts from all over the world.
Yeah.
In particular, we have, beside the director of UNOSA, we had also the US State Department, which participated in the greetings. So the meeting there was great, very well organized. A very important news is that the University of Harbin, Harbin Institute of Technology, announced the creation, the first level in China, about a consortium of universities which are dedicated to the Moon Village 2050. This is a very important initiative. There are 29 universities in China which have already participated in this, and they were there. In fact, it is a very nice end of the meeting which shows this. and the MVA will make sure that there are the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So HIT is taking care of the coordination of this initiation within China, and we just take the rest of the world.
Yeah. What is it like to visit a Chinese university during the conference time for International Moon Village, and also to see how young people, their enthusiasm about the future exploration of the moon? What does that mean to them in terms of their process of studying and researching?
It is important that projects like lunar exploration utilization be seen in the context of the full humanity.
Yeah.
And of course it's important that all kids of the world, and that's why it's so important the initiative of the Harbin Institute of Technology, will be able to cooperate with each other.
What was it like to be surrounded by the young students, who are enthusiastic and who are really curious about what needs to be done?
Well, Ms. Tianwei, you know that the space activities have the direct returns to benefit our national economy, and also one important return from the space field is to encourage the young people and attract more talents from the young people to choose their lifespan career, to choose the space technology or other advanced technology as a lifespan career. So this is very important for not only for China, but also for all people around the world. So there is no exception. You know that many of my friends from the United States and from other countries, they choose to become an astronaut or become a space scientist because of the Apollo program. So today, the similar things happen again. So you can see how important it is and how amazing it is.
Including yourself?
Exactly. So actually speaking, you often show, I show some books on the social media, encyclopedia, when I bought it about 40 years before. I bought it because it is an encyclopedia introducing space technology, and it is amazing that after many years, when I become an engineer space field, I have the chance to meet the people there, to meet Buzz Aldrin, who is the first crew to walk on the moon, and also Mr. Schreckert, who is the first one to piloting a lunar module. So it's really, really amazing for me.
Yeah. All the best to both of you, and certainly to the future of the Moon Village. Thank you so much.
谢谢。
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 And that's all the time we have for today. If you'd like to know more, search World Insight or check out our YouTube channel. Follow us on X and Facebook. I'm Tian Wei on behalf of the team. Thanks for being with us. Bye for now.